you considered the messages your outfits send? What do you think your clothes say about you? See, style is about the clothes, but it's not really about the clothes. Every day you make choices about what you're going to wear, but what are you communicating? Welcome to Above and Beyond Style. I'm your host, Maria DiLorenzo, and in 2019, I founded MFD Style, where I provide a unique, intuitive approach to personal styling for those ready to embrace a more meaningful look. With this podcast, I'll uncover key elements of where spirituality, psychology, and style intersect, revealing how you can make intentional wardrobe choices that reflect who you really are. So let me ask you, are you ready to transform into your authentic self? Then it's time. Come with me on this journey, and together we'll take your style above and beyond style. Hey everybody, welcome back to Above and Beyond Style. Again, season 3, we are tackling some, I hope, helpful constructs, ideas around what gets us off track from building and curating a wardrobe we really love and that helps reflect who we are authentically. And I think in my work as a stylist over the last several years, I have really seen a lot of these topics come up with my clients. And I really hope that these topics are helping you start to kind of play with, does any of this show up in my own life? Are any of these thought processes, behaviors, etc., are they helping me or are they hindering me in the process of building this authentic wardrobe that reflects authentically who you are? So today's topic, and I want to be really sensitive to all of these topics on some level because it does elicit feelings about, is that me? Right? I'm already getting some of the feedback from listeners about, gosh, guilty, raising their hand. Like, yes, you're definitely identifying some of the pitfalls that I think I might be guilty of. And let me reassure you, I'm not here to make you feel guilty. I'm here to help you try to get clear about how some of these things can really bring us to a place with our wardrobe where we don't feel proud and excited and motivated by what's in our closets. And when we stand at the doorway of our closet and see various items that just either aren't being worn, they no longer reflect who we are, we haven't worn them in ages, it's helpful, I think, to figure out, like, how did we get here? What are the things that may have contributed to this state of affairs? And is there anything that we could do to rectify that going forward? So please know that I come at this from a place of helping us, and I mean us, I'm including myself in all of these behaviors, and really want to help inspire and motivate us to really pay attention to some of these things instead of making you feel guilty or shameful if you have sort of fallen prey to any of these pitfalls. So please know that's never my intention, and I hope that you come to this ready and a bit more positioned to be able to take on and absorb some of this information to help you going forward. So this week's topic is one that I feel passionately about, but I also recognize my role in it. So let me say more to this. I want to talk about being influenced and the power of suggestion. Now, I can go in a lot of different directions around this concept of being influenced, but I want to talk about it from sort of two perspectives. The first is I want to talk about the role of the social media influencer as a role in and of itself, as a job now that has existed that wasn't really in the mainstream 10 years ago, and the power of that role on our decision making. And then secondly, I want to look at being influenced or being persuaded by anyone that we trust. And I want to talk about that concept of trust because that's going to be a really important part of how we make choices and decisions when we involve other people in that process. So let me start with talking about the rise of the social media influencer as a person and as a role. And then I also kind of want to stream into a little bit about like targeted ads on Facebook or Instagram, for example. So let's talk about the role of the influencer first. I don't know at what juncture this really started to take off. I sort of noticed it in my own behavioral patterns and paying more attention to it sometime around 2016, 17, 18, somewhere in that 3-year span. Started to see more brands really understanding the power of this form of direct marketing. And they then were super smart and started leveraging what I think was sort of this, and I mean this in the best way, like ordinary people who share and talk about products and experiences to sell to consumers. And they realized this sort of direct to consumer kind of concept was helping support and substantiate what was happening, obviously in store when you're working with a sales associate, or even just online when you have sort of those like live help, live chat kind of concepts. I think this concept of the social media influencer really started to get some legs when they noticed people were, one, spending more time in these social media channels. And of course, various different platforms have taken off over the years. But really, we saw this rise of people really being introduced into this role, this very specific role of helping showcase and sell specific products to the ordinary person, right? Ordinary people selling to ordinary people. And that concept of trust, I think, became really important at this juncture because as you started to follow more people in the social media realm and you were checking in on their accounts on a regular basis, you started to understand who they are as a person, what was their lifestyle, the things they value, how they talk about important things to them, whether that be in the religious or political sphere. Sometimes, you hear all of these various ways that influencers are sharing their lives with their community. And it's an important part of getting to know someone, right? It's almost like dating in that respect. And as we get to know these people and learn and understand how they're making decisions and why they make decisions, they start to showcase and share some of the things that they're using in their everyday life. And that, I think, it's amazing how kind of not novel that concept is, to just talk about the things that we use and we like and we appreciate, and how much value the external audience places on, gosh, that's really helpful to know that you like XYZ product and that's why. So there was this trust that has been profoundly built over several years. And I really give so much credit to those on the front lines in this space. I want to talk about my own role in social media influencing in a minute, but I'm talking about folks that this is their primary work, perhaps maybe their primary source of income, and are supporting their lives and their families through this method of this role, this purpose, and this avenue of sharing their lives with people, and then telling others about what they like and want to buy and have used and would suggest to you to do the same. And so this whole concept of showcasing has been something that I think, let me talk about how that gets us into a pitfall. I think there is nothing inherently wrong. Everybody from the beginning of time has outsourced opinions or references, or when you're making decisions, it's nice to sort of hear from other people about, well, what did you think of this? Or did you have a good experience with that? Whether that was a vacation location or it was an actual product that you might use in your everyday home, to the clothes you wear. It's not unusual for us to want to seek that kind of information and vet that with the people that we trust. But what's interesting is I think there comes a certain tipping point, if you will, to use Malcolm Gladwell's term. There becomes a tipping point where I think some people start to listen to those outside voices about what is good for you and for your lifestyle, and weigh that more heavily than your own opinion. So that outside opinion becomes more dominant than the personal opinion that you might have for yourself. And I think what ends up happening is we then are making choices about the things we buy. And I'm particularly talking about wardrobe and clothing in this concept. But we make these choices based on recommendations from outside people. And perhaps we haven't really done the work to really step back and evaluate, is that right for me? And I think what ends up happening then is the scale tips too heavily sometimes in that influencer space. And the items then we start to find ourselves buying on Amazon and, the latest sale that's being highlighted, or even promotional deals that obviously social media influencers have access to. They feel like a good deal, right? We talked about buying for the sale a couple weeks ago, right? These are sort of the methods, the marketing methods. They're not always a trap. I don't want to insinuate that it's always leading to this behavior, but I do think there are times when this can get out of proportion and we find ourselves buying things, again, that maybe weren't really in alignment with our lifestyle or who we are or how we live our lives and how we want to project ourselves in the outside world. And so when we look at our closets or in our drawers, we kind of pull out some of these items and they're like, gosh, I bought this online because this woman I follow on Instagram said it was a great blah blah and I really thought it would work for me and I've never worn it. Right? So there's this challenge of weighing other people's outside voices too heavily and sometimes override our own voice and our own intuition, which I'll talk about in a second, to make some of these choices for ourselves. Now listen, the whole industry around fashion and in particular using social media influencers, it's an industry built on more, right? There's always showcasing the newest thing, and trying to highlight the newest products. And that there, again, nothing inherently wrong with that, but it's about helping you decide, are the newest things really relevant and important for me to have in my own life? And so through this process of affiliate links, right, the influencer puts a link up for the specific item and they make a very small commission off of individual items that are being sold from that particular affiliate link. It's at no cost to the consumer. It's purely on the affiliate brand side. And it's actually quite lucrative. So you can see why this has really taken off over the last several years. And again, I don't want to deny the fact that I have a role in this. I have a social media presence. I have a wonderful community that I believe I've built through Instagram primarily. And I do use affiliate links for specific items that I find useful or important or valuable that I've found that I want to share with my community, right? So there's nothing inherently wrong with the process itself. It's about the consumer that's receiving this information. I always want you to make the best choice for you and really be thoughtful about, is this the right item for me? And how wonderful that you can support myself and other influencers in that space by saying, yeah, that's something I'd really use and I want to contribute. And I see a lot of people who are really thoughtful and intentional about wanting to shop from specific people's links so that they can make sure they get the credit for that sale. A lovely concept and so helpful and really appreciated, I think, by anybody that works in this space. But again, I really just want to help you understand sometimes how this concept of listening to the outside voice in a stronger, bigger, more influential way than your own can sometimes land you with items in your closet that may not need to have been there in the first place. And listen, I think imitation is the highest form of flattery. I really, really do. So I think that when someone sees something on me and says, oh my goodness, that's so beautiful, I really love that. Would you mind if I got that too? Like, I love the concept of that experientially. Like, I think that's a really beautiful thing to be able to show and emulate to other people that this was important to me or that I really liked this. And I think at the core, this is, I think, why social media is so impactful. And I really do think these algorithms that are super savvy now and that can anticipate and predict like all the crazy things that we might like. I mean, it is wild. I won't spend a whole lot of time in this space, but know that those targeted ads are really smart, and they themselves are sort of their own influence, if you will. And I think when we see those things, we have to recognize that we feel that sense of we want to look or we want to feel or we want to experience life like this other person may be doing. So by buying this item, maybe we think we're getting closer to making that kind of look, feel, or experience lifestyle a reality for ourselves, right? I think there's inherently something about the psychology behind, I see how you live and how you are and how you dress and how you travel, etc. And could my life look and feel and experience that same way if I too have those same products in my life or that same experience? And you may, believe me, I don't want to rule that out. I just want to say, be cautious of how we weigh those decisions in our own lives, that your life, and I really hope you've garnered this from my podcasts thus far, you as an individual are so special and are so unique. And while it's beautiful to acknowledge and recognize other amazing things in other people's lives, they're not leading your life, which is incredible and blessed and so rich and full in so many unique ways. To not let yourself get lost in the translation of your own joy and experience by being influenced by someone else. And I really mean that on the most profound level, and then even on the most simple ways with clothing. So I want to give you a couple thoughts about how to not counteract the art of being influenced, because I do think it's important and I don't want to negate it entirely, but I want you to create a little space. And this is where I'm going to start with that concept of the power of the pause, which I've talked about before in buying for the sale, or really just learning to, scratch that shopping itch, which we talked about before too, like creating some space between you and the purchase and really giving yourself just a few moments, take a beat to evaluate and decide for yourself if this is really right for you. And I want to give an honest example of where this showed up for me recently. There are several influencers that I follow in social media whose all style I really love. They all live very different lifestyles. They're all in different parts of the country. None of them are actually in New England. So it's important. I make that because it's an important piece of this. And they were all highlighting, they were together for a trip recently, and they were all highlighting a specific item that they all owned and loved and used. And seeing it collectively, I will say, is a very powerful marketing approach because, again, I have followed and really come to, actually, I've met a couple of them in person now. I've got like a personal connection with them. They're not just people on the internet anymore. I follow these women and I've learned to really trust the things that they recommend and they talk about because I have gotten to know and understand their own decision-making process. So being influenced by them at times can come pretty easily because they have sort of cleared that space in my own mind about being a trustworthy source. Now, when they were highlighting this item, it's funny how often I came back to, I wonder if I should get this specific item. And it really was a powerful, I found myself being really swayed. Well, one, because of course there was like a promotional code, which got you a discount. Again, buying for the sale, right? And seeing them kind of in this community of different lifestyles coming together that have used this product and really love this product, I found myself very much saying, like, I would like to look, feel, and experience life like they do with this product in their life and as they're doing in their own life. And what was interesting for me that when I took that pause, I was able to sort of see, hang on a second. This is a really amazing product for lots of good reasons, and I would highly recommend it for lots of reasons as well. But I had to really get real about whether this particular item in my closet would get as much wear as these particular women are getting, mostly because of where they live. And so the weather and the region and those things were different than how I live my life in the Northeast. And it from a really practical standpoint was like, you know what? I just don't think I'll get as much wear out of these as if I lived in perhaps Southern California or in warmer climates that were longer, warmer for longer periods of time. This might be the perfect item for me. So do you see how I find myself in this mode too, where the power of suggestion is real and it's very much from this trusted source, but I had to create some pause and space between me and the purchase to really get clear about, was this right for me? And I think that also comes, in tandem with learning to trust your own intuition, right? I talked about like listening to outside voices about what looks good on you. Well, your voice should be the loudest, right? I really want to help hone that concept of really learn to understand what your voice says and what it's helping you, make decisions around authentic style and this authentic lifestyle that you want to lead. And what are the things that should belong when you really get clear about that? And often it means taking what you want and sometimes leaving the rest for other people to kind of sort out for themselves, right? So learning to trust that own intuitive voice and knowing takes a lot of practice, but I do think it can help create, again, some space between listening to those outside voices more than you listen to your own. And realistically, I also want to be honest about the financial implications of being influenced. And really looking at the reality of we all have limited and finite resources, and we all use our resources in different ways, right? And I think it's helpful if you can get clear about whatever the amount or whatever the investment is that you want to dedicate to building your authentic style, to create some parameters for yourself around that. Because I do think that will help you stay on track when these sort of influential sales or deals or promotions or someone is highlighting this product and really selling it to you. It helps you get clear about maybe this isn't the right time. Maybe in another month or two when different circumstances around your finances shift or change, like just being honest and clear about how much you want to dedicate to this process of curating your wardrobe and your style, I think really can help, again, put some pause on being influenced too heavily. And I do want to say on the flip side of all this, if you know me, you know that I like to sort of play both sides of the coin here because there really isn't any one answer, and I'm not pointing fingers or, at any one direction. I do want you to know and understand and really believe that the power of suggestion or being influenced can oftentimes introduce change. And that change might be exactly what you want in your life, right? But I think it requires you asking that question of yourself that, is this a change that you really want or need? So, and I mean by change in this specific way around change in your wardrobe or the addition into your wardrobe. And it means making more choices around your wardrobe by adding in a new piece, right? It's introducing change, again, in a very intentional way. And I want you to be intentional about your choices. So don't necessarily look at the suggestion always to lead you somewhere negatively. It really can lead you to a place that is getting you closer to authentic style and authentic, your authentic expression of yourself through your style. I just want you to be really mindful about how you can play a role in that decision. Because sometimes that power of suggestion could help you solve a problem. Like, what should I wear to this wedding in this location that I've never been to at this time of year, right? Hearing people's suggestions or getting influenced by perhaps something that someone else has worn is actually really helpful, and it might actually help you solve a problem. So you can see that that power of suggestion can introduce a change to a problem that you really needed help with. Or in addition, to simplify a decision, right? You go anywhere now and there is, no longer are there one or two brands to choose from. Now it's like 15 or 20 different options for any item under the sun. Could be the light bulbs you put in your lamps, to which washing machine brand do you need to purchase for your clothes, to, jeans, for example. There's so many options of jeans out there in the world. It can be overwhelming to make a decision or get to a decision. So the power of suggestion or being influenced sometimes can really help simplify that decision and help us get clear and narrow down, right? So you can see there's advantages to this concept too. But my real hope for you and for us is to recognize how going too far to the extreme of being influenced or allowing some of those persuaded thoughts or suggestions be too heavily influential on our own decision making, and giving us some space to say, let me just check to see if this is right for me before we hit pause, before we hit not pause, but buy or purchase, or we click the link, or we go right to buy. This is an important process that I think we all can practice and do more. And I'm hoping then by being a bit more intentional with some of this, you won't be standing at your closet feeling like, how did I get here? Where did all this stuff come from? And how can I regain some control and connection to the clothes and the wardrobe that I have? So I hope this has been helpful, you guys. I am so excited that you're here and have been listening. As always, eager to hear your feedback and any other thoughts you might have around this topic. And until next time, be well. Thanks so much for listening today. If you enjoyed what you've heard, I would appreciate you taking the time to leave a review on the podcasting platform you're using, and share this episode with others who you think might really enjoy these conversations about personal style. For more information all about MFD Style services, you can find me on the web at mfdstyle.com, on Instagram at mfd_style, where I post almost 5 days a week, or send me an email at maria@mfdstyle.com. I also have a weekly email I send to subscribers, so I will include the link to that sign up in the show notes. So until next time, friends, remember to love yourself and then love yourself some more.